From its vastly better portrayal of the undead to more immersive stories and character development, let's talk about some of the reasons The Last of Us is so much better than The Walking Dead. While both shows share a common theme and genre, they couldn't be more different. To start with, The Last of Us is a show that manages to find apocalyptic meaning where The Walking Dead couldn't. They're both blockbuster apocalyptic shows featuring zombies, even though the latter will never really call them that. And yes, they both also deal with the worst of humanity emerging during the chaos. But while one deals with sensitive topics of love, family, and morality realistically, the other falls short on most of those fronts. The Walking Dead has been the dominant post-apocalyptic series on television since it premiered in 2010. The story follows Rick Grimes and focuses on the world in the aftermath of a global zombie pandemic. The story's origins come from a series published by Image Comics in 2003. But since its conception, the show has branched off into 6 spin-offs, each having its own perspective within the overall universe. The series' reception may have been turbulent toward the end, but you can't deny its success and influence. It's a legacy that will definitely outlast the show's creator and one that can't be challenged by many. That's where The Last of Us comes in. As a video game, it was released in 2013 during one of the more successful seasons of The Walking Dead. It gave us a story in line with The Walking Dead since it takes place in a similarly dystopian world ravaged by the undead. Ellie and Joel's journey was praised so highly that it was only a matter of time before the game was adapted into a movie or television series. Skipping forward to 2023, The Last of Us has finally transitioned to live action as a highly acclaimed series on HBO. People were already comparing the two stories before. Now that they both exist in equal media, we can go ahead and properly weigh each against the other. Starting with the primary difference, what were the origins of the undead in each story? When it comes to the cause of The Walking Dead's undead, it's a little tricky. They didn't outrightly give a definitive source of the virus. Kirkman, the show's creator, only lightly touched on the topic, saying that it wasn't relatable or necessary for the story. He stated that he meant for there to be less of a focus on the search for a cure and more on humanity resiliently pushing forward. The only answer we do have since then is from the after credits of the season 2 finale of The Walking Dead World Beyond. That's where they hinted at it being a viral creation from a biomedical facility in France. Seems like something they came up with after fans hounded them, to be honest. The Last of Us, in comparison, has a much clearer path for the origin of its monsters, slightly different for whichever story you follow. The HBO series has its beginnings at a flower factory in Indonesia, with the cordyceps fungus evolving to survive the effects of global warming. The game, however, never really states the why or how of the fungus's mutations. There are actually multiple artifacts that you'll find as a player that tracks the fungus's story as a mysterious infection. In the game, we learn that it originated in South American crops and made its way through Central America, Mexico, and eventually across the world. The series didn't really change up too much from the game, so the essence of the origin still remains the same. Let's move on to the actual threat in each of the shows. Where did the primary threat in each one come from? When you think of zombies, you obviously think of beings that want nothing more than to feed and spread. That's what you get from both shows, but each of the creators put their respective spin on the threats posed within their stories. In The Walking Dead, there's less of a threat from zombies and more from the chaotic state humanity is in. The world that Rick wakes up to is a lot more brutal and less forgiving than the one he fell asleep to. Rick has also suffered heavy losses, personally and within his group. He's lost his wife, child, several friends, and even his hand, and not the zombies, but to other humans. So the ultimate takeaway from the series is that the zombies are an ever-present danger, yes, but they're also more of an environmental and adaptable threat. The living, on the other hand, are the real danger. You might say that the Druckmann series is pretty much the same, but the truth is that the infected play a much larger role in The Last of Us. Comparatively, the show's hosts are significantly more dangerous than The Walking Dead zombies. They're not just stronger, faster, and harder to kill, but they also get stronger the longer they exist within the host. As the fungus grows within the infected, it provides an armor-like shell on parts of the body and starts to create its own weapons. That places them not just within the environment, but also at an equal threat level as opposing survivors. Since I touched on the topic of human adaptability, let's talk more about the differences in how the living in each show adapt to the post-infected world. In both shows, the world is already in a dystopian state. The communities in both are either already divided or about to be taken over by factional rule. In The Walking Dead, the story starts with the living still looking for a better world. Initially, the protagonist is unaware of how civilization has progressed after the apocalypse. Eventually, the viewer's awareness of the situation expands from that of Rick's small crew to other factions. Some of them include cannibals, intense townships, and distrusting groups. In The Last of Us, we see the US government disbanded and replaced by the Federal Disaster Response Agency, FEDRA. The society has teamed up with the military and declared martial law. Not just that, but they've also teamed up with the Department of Defense and the Centers for Disease Control. They've come up with quarantine zones and come with super strict protocols in an attempt to contain the fungal spread in the country. Consequently, other groups have also risen from the ashes. You've got hunters, robbers, smugglers, and most importantly, the Fireflies. They're a revolutionary militia formed in response to FEDRA based on the belief that the new government is too extreme. As you've probably gathered, the whole thing is a lot more nuanced in The Last of Us than it is in The Walking Dead, and the same can be said for its characters. The characters are more thoroughly explored with better backstories in one of the two. Let's start with the protagonists. Rick Grimes was the perfect protagonist, no doubt. He even maintained his humanity for a large part of the series. But it took a while for him to toughen up. Joel, on the other hand, is a more hardened and far more realistic main character. The characters in The Last of Us also face way more challenges than those in The Walking Dead. The people from the latter show may have had more challenges over time, but those from the latter faced many from the very beginning. That's probably why they also saw way more character growth. That and the fact that The Walking Dead didn't give a lot of backstory for its main characters. The Last of Us, on the other hand, begins before the world falls. So we get a glimpse into the protagonist's life before and after the apocalypse. And that's not it. Other characters' stories are also shown in a more honest and organic way. In my opinion, it's not even a close call. The Last of Us wins by a landslide. That's all I have for you on why The Last of Us is so much better than The Walking Dead.